So, Knitting Media, who am I? Who are we? It's 2.5 years working with other agencies and media owners in the UK and North America. We're just helping to make out-of-home trading better, faster, cleaner. And another privilege I had over the past couple of years is helming, stewarding the Coding Club, which means get to work with the technical people at these great agencies and media owners. And not only do we get to create standards, we get to implement them as well. So I'll come back to this one later. Just put it down here for now. So, how many AdTECH people does it take to change a light bulb? Well, I think we've been well educated on this the past couple of years. We've got the media owner, there's a nice pin there. We've got the supply side platform, the exchange, the demand side platform, and finally, the media buyer. And we know we've got the supply side platform there to help the media owner turn that inventory into bids. We've got the demand side platform that helps the media buyer buy those bids, and we've got the exchange in the middle that keeps everything flowing. So it's a pretty straightforward answer, really. 1, 2, 3, 4 AdTECH people screwing the media buyer's light bulb in. Don't get me wrong, and I've got to put this a disclaimer, I'm a massive fan of programmatic out-of-home. It's a fantastic way to access fragmented inventory from smaller media owners, especially in the US market. Makes it simpler for media owners to access these new revenues that are coming in, these new types of buyers. A real top of the funnel datum as well, a great starting point to reach those mobile audiences. Great way to, what's the reason to go onto your phone and do something? Well, a billboard's going to be a great tip for that. The great thing is, as we've seen today, we've got great new people and companies coming in, talking about out-of-home, promoting out-of-home, new thinking, disruptive innovation. And I think what I'd like to do with this presentation, for the next 15 minutes, I think there's 3 key opportunities to work on. My youngest son's doing GCSEs at the moment. My eldest son's doing A-levels, so it's something on top of my mind at the moment. But I think right at the moment, I'd probably give the whole programmatic landscape 3 C's. Let's have a look at them. Number 1, complexity. What I might do now is bring the old pins back. Let's try and talk about what's the landscape looking like at the moment. So we've got, there's the media owners, plenty of them. We'll have them the green pins. And now we've got the supply side platform and exchanges. And as you can see, there's lots of the out-of-home supply side platforms have got their own exchange. We've got some aggregators. And as we get towards the top, we've got supply side platforms and companies that not only do the supply side, they've got the exchange, they've got the DSP, the full stack. So we've got quite an array. And I just thought I'd be interested to try and do a bit of knitting and try and show how the landscape looks at the moment. So from the media owners, and we say this a lot, that a media owner will think, well, hang on a minute, I don't just need to have just one supply side platform, I could have a few, play the market, play the game. So certainly we're seeing that. Then from the supply side platforms to the exchanges, obviously the supply side platforms want to reach the demand side platforms. So again, we see the supply side platforms are putting their supply, their aggregated supply, into those different exchanges. And obviously from the exchanges, as we see from the press releases, the great work that people are doing, pretty much the demand side platforms have a real choice and they're making a real effort to connect to as many out-of-home exchanges as possible. Some of them are specialist, as we've heard just now. Some are specialist out-of-home DSPs, and some are omni-channel DSPs. So it could be argued, well, this looks really, really complex, but if you're a media buyer and you're just looking to buy audiences, you don't really care about this because this great structure here, everything working together, you're going to find the audience you want at the price you want. I think what becomes a bit more complex, if you're a buyer who's looking to buy certain frames from certain media owners by name, that's where it becomes a little harder to understand. So that's the first C. The second C, clarity. and I might just put my coding club hat on for this now. We're going to dive into a bit of code, ladies and gentlemen. As part of this, you're all entitled to a coding club badge as well, but I'll try and make this as easy to understand and painless as possible. So a key clarity point, what's actually being sold programmatically? What is it that's being sold as a bid? And really it boils down to, especially asking around a lot, learning a lot from the IAB Tech Lab, it's a play. You're buying one play on one device up to an hour ahead in time. So it's one play. So it's not audiences that are being traded across here, it is one play on a device. Of course, a device has a certain location. This is information that can get attached to the bid. What was really fascinating and to learn and understand was that this is absolutely crucial, and a lot of the omnichannel DSPs are insisting that the device is clearly marked as out of home, so there's no confusion, so there's no selling alongside mobile or display ads. And I was a bit puzzled by this because, what is wrong with an impact on a big screen? Why can't that be sold alongside a display ad, a mobile ad? Surely, if anything, it's more impactful, more recognition, etc. Flying the flag for out of home. But the interesting answer was, you can't click on an out of home ad. And that sort of hurt. I never thought of it from that angle before. You can't click on an out of home ad. And apparently that has less value. But I don't see that as a problem. I see that more as a challenge. So what helps? What else do we need to add to this play, this bid that's going out into the exchanges? Oops. We've got the impression, the multiplier, and quite interestingly, some DSPs, because they know it's one play, they know the device or the out-of-home screen, the location, they can sort of add this information themselves, but quite rightly, when you've got great first-party information or it's something you're trying to feed into the market, adding that impression, the multiplier, is something of use. There's a bit of confusion around how you do the multiplier. Does that affect on the CPT? Is it the total CPT? But it's there, and I think that's one area of improvement that will happen. How we do that impression multiplier, the understanding of it, that will grow over the next year. And finally, the key bit information as this bid's going out into the ether. Obviously, from a media owner's point of view, you want to control, the floor and ceiling, the value of this bid that's going out. So we have the bid that's going out from the SSP into the exchange. I think I've covered all those ones. That was just my, yeah, we've got that. So here we have all the bids going out into the exchange from the SSPs, doing a great job turning that one play into something of value. So we've got the bid requests. We need something to bid now. Here it is. We have got the DSP. We've got it here, and bear with me, this was written one day after my COVID jab, so it was a bit delirious, but when I looked back on it, it sort of made sense, because there you've got the DSP. It's got a minimum max, it wants to bid for something, you've got the size of the bids flying out. Can it do a bid acceptance on all of the bid requests? No, because some might be PMPs, private marketplace, so you can't have that one. Some might be private guaranteed deals that we'll come back to. But the real reason I thought this was useful, because this bid, the DSP, has got some intelligence. This brings you back to what is the reason it is buying all these bids that are coming out, flying across. And that's down to the audience data, or the DMP, the pre-bid DMP. Which brings me to the last C, which is chronology. Chronology part 1. Let's talk about time. So, here's the real-time buy event happening here. We know the playout's going to happen an hour ahead at the most. And we've got the different types of data that are powering that bid, of those bid requests. At the bottom here, we've got real-time data. So this might be camera recognition, or instant footfall, or counting the traffic straight away. And it is without argument, for real-time data, that is the massive reason for the real-time buy. Then we've got other data that are powering the DSPs. So a lot of even the most specialized out-of-home DSPs at the moment, it's about 24-hour ahead. It's the mobile data that's been brought in, that's cleaned, that's justified, and it's that sort of data that's powering the bid. Other types of data, obviously we've got the data exchange data, honorable mention to AdSquare here. So this data is not just mobile data, it's been layered. It might be layered with residential data, it might be layered with credit card data. It's really, really rich, useful data that some would say, as the time goes up for the data, the trust goes up. And finally, at the top there, we've got things like the Joint Industry Committee's data. In the UK, it's Root, there's DataPath, various real gold standards of complete industry-approved data. And that tends to be a little older as well. It's things that are updated over a month, up to 3 months ahead in time. So I think the challenge is here is that without a doubt, live data justifies live real-time buying. But what's the argument to say, if you know the reasons for buying that media a day ahead, why not buy a day ahead? If you know the reasons to buy the media a month ahead, buy a month ahead. If you know the reasons to buy that data more than a month ahead, why not buy more than a month ahead? In a way, that brings into the second part of chronology, of the time conundrum that needs to be solved, which is the buffet syndrome that we have with out-of-home media. Obviously, buying far ahead, you get that clear run at the inventory that's there available, the finite inventory, whereas buying at the last minute, it can be reduced what you can buy. Obviously, media owners such as Global have made a great point to actually reserve that 1 in 6 for that real-time buying, and I think that's a great start ahead. There's one thing that I've seen that's really got me going a bit in the industry at the moment, which is the way of guaranteeing this reserve thing. If you're not going to save that spot, if you're not going to have that confidence to save that inventory for the open market, we've seen RTB guaranteed deals being set up, and the only thing that's really been a bit weird about this is we've seen DSPs, exchanges, supply-side platforms, arranging these reserved bits of space with Excel sheets, emails, phone calls, and we're better than that, and things will improve. Because if you have reserved that space and no one else can buy it, surely you could buy it straight away rather than sending it through the RTB system. But with all of this, the programmatic problems are the start of programmatic solutions, easy for me to say. Oops. There we go. If only there's a programmatic standard for things like deal discovery, availability discovery, direct reservation and booking, and direct playout reporting. And there is. IAB have got something called Open Direct. It's a standard where you can go to a media owner, and it relies on media owners setting up the inventory. Are you going to sell frames or audience? Are your sales rules? You can set them up by distribution, time, volume, pricing, all the great ways you want to sell. And you end up with products, packs, deals, and offers that can go into an open marketplace. The way Open Direct works is you can look at those deal IDs, you can see what they're there, you can see availability, you can buy, serve the ads, and get the playout logs directly. It sounds simple. It does require media owners to take a lot more responsibility for what the pricing, what the products, what the sales rules, that's got to be done. But in effect, you've created where a media buyer can buy direct from the media owners. So a little bit of work, but there's a benefit to it. Something as simple as this, surely this is just theory. Surely this doesn't work as simply as that. Surely it takes a lot of things to get aligned. It does, but it's working in the market at the moment. Working with media owners, working with the technical partners, we're finding now we've got media buyers who can buy direct from the media owners in their products and their descriptions. It's not something new, it's something pioneered by Kinetic, Posterscope, Talon, bringing it into the market, but it's something that's really working at the moment. But it's not to say it's a and or. Both technologies work really well together, and I think the strength is both of them working together and really solving those problems of the 3 C's that we've discussed. In terms of discovering deal IDs, that doesn't need to be done on spreadsheets, on emails, or phone calls. This can be automated using Open Direct to discover the deals in the way the media owners want to describe them, sell them, or make them available. And then from there, it can hand over to the great strengths of OpenRTB trading that we've talked about, that we've seen today in terms of bid requests, bid response, serving the ads, getting the information. It's really something that both can work together. So, pulling it into a conclusion, if there's one thing that I could ask everyone to do, especially in the UK, it's to work closer, work together, especially with the IAB UK doing some fantastic initiatives around the marketing and the technical side. We've seen the from Outsmart and the IPAO setting up these technical groups. And the IB Tech Lab, on the more extreme end, is a great way to discover, learn, and contribute to the future. We want to take programmatic away from problematic. We want to take AdTECH away from AdTech and really fulfill its potential. And that's going to be through collaboration and contribution on standards. Better, faster, cleaner, real-time, direct, working together. There's none of the problems that we can't overcome. So finally, how many people does it take to change a light bulb in an AdTech sense? I think it's quite right it is at the moment. Everyone's got the part to play. But generally, it's the need for light bulb engineers to come together to make those standards correct so we can have as few people changing light bulbs as possible. Over to the engineers. There's some great starting points here if you're not already familiar with the standards. And basically, thanks for being here, and I'll always be there if there's any questions to follow up on.
Thanks, Tim. Lots of really big things to talk about there. I was actually going to tie it back into something that we were talking about in a previous conversation about verification and how that fits into this massive spider's web of connections that we need to make to get the business to a fully programmatic, automated solution. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
That's I think the microphone's gone. Thank you. 1, 2. No, I think that's a really good question. And in verification, I think it was previously made on the previous panel. In the online, the mobile world, you've got those third-party ads being served in, and you've got things like the tracking pixels. It's an open third-party verification of what's exactly happening. With out of home, you're serving ads, you're playing ads in closed networks. Mungo had made the point at the start of the day about these IP addresses aren't available to everyone. They're very closed networks. So I think we've got a choice here to trust the playout reports that are coming directly from the media owners back to the buyers, or the media owners have to open their systems to third-party verification and outside sources. So a couple of examples of that. So the way Outsmart is working at the moment, we're working very hard with the media owners. We've created an open standard whereby all the media owners can publish in an agreed location with agreed naming conventions and a correct schema, information about every single ad that's played on the network that relates to that client. So that's one approach. So that's going to be a much more open future in terms of getting those playout reports directly from source. The third-party ad verification, that recently launched in Australia, which relies on the tracking pixels. And I think the main issue with the tracking pixel is it requires a live internet connection. When the ad plays on the media panel, it requires a live internet connection for that tracking pixel signal to be sent back to the server. In out-of-home, all of the panels are not always connected. It might be 3G issues, might be 5G issues, but seriously, if you get 1,000 people in Waterloo Station on an evening, the cell towers just shrink. It's very hard to get a signal. You'll find the same when you've got big conferences.
But that doesn't mean that the ad hasn't been played. It just means that the connection wasn't there at the time, right?
Exactly. So that live tracking pixel won't register, but the advert did play. Right. So I know there's been issues in certain markets with the reconciliation of that, because it's like you can't store the tracking pixel signal on the... Yeah. So again, I think it's just one of those problems that we're really going to solve together, working with the standards and just being open about it.
It takes a bit of trust.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of questions from the online guys again. First one is, have you followed the measurement guidelines that the OAAA and World Out of Home have published in the past 2 weeks? And what are your thoughts?
Am I allowed to answer that through the medium of 80s computer games?
Yeah, if you like.
I think it's fascinating to do with the different data standards, etc. But I think what the job is, and it's certainly that something is doing Open Direct, the out-of-home version, is that if we can clearly say who you're referencing when you're offering that bid, if you can clearly say this is who we're referencing when we're describing this product. So I'd like to see the product saying, okay, this is the product and it's being measured by this data standard. So I think it's the clarity about which data standard you're using, who you're using as your datum, rather than a trading standard itself saying, no, it's going to use this, or this.
So it's a choice, and again, being transparent and open about what your choice has been for the measurement and making sure that the buyer understands that.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Absolutely. Question about terminology. Is AdTECH or PDO the right terminology for what we're describing?
Another great question. I always refer to the IAB Tech Lab in their terms. So what they call programmatic, which is a lot. But as we've heard today, a lot of people use the different terms in more of a marketing sense, and if it gets the marketing in a marketing sense and it works, it works. But again, with standardization, I think we've got a lot of work to do there as well.
Do you have any questions from people here? Andrew's roaming with a microphone, if you've got anything coming along. And if not, I think we'll let you sit down again.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you.